Let's go.
Yes, sir.
You are here and now with Brandon and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Brandon.
Very kind of strict conservative Catholic hate, but it's few and far between. It's mostly and almost never to our face. Occasionally, usually it comes in the form of like internet comments and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like how you paid homage to St. Liborius.
Yeah, that was intentional. That was very intentional.
Because that right there kind of shows the respect.
Yeah, that was Betwell a lot. Actually came up with the Sk8 Liborius name. Like I wasn't sure what we were going to name it necessarily, and then people were calling it Church of Skating, and we were like, I'm going to go with that one. I think that's I don't know. This kind of potentially problematic name that could piss some people off, and so church. I was thinking somebody asked me where that Sk8 Liborius name came from, and I believe Bedwell made that name up. He certainly made it up with the 8 in it. That's like the skate with the 8. That was definitely him. But I think it was definitely like a concerted effort to pay homage to it with using Liborius in the name, because originally like our whole goal was saving the building. But the name, I think actually like coining Sk8 Liborius, I think it was probably Bedwell that pushed that to the front. But for a while it was Church of Skating. But like we kind of made a intentional distancing from that name, just because that's got the potential to like piss people off. Like,
Right.
We don't like want to. I'm not like a Catholic, but like I don't got no beef or nothing. I don't want to like do shit to specifically piss off Catholic, because the church is important to a lot of people. It's very important to us. And like our first goal was just to save this building, because it's so like this incredible structure and we want to save for many different reasons. And so like in doing that, we don't want to disparage the history of it. In fact, like we're very proud of the history of it. So that's kind of the origin of the name on it.
Yeah. You definitely got to be like open-minded about branding and like shit about that. You know, like. Because a lot of people, it just depends. Like, I know a lot of people probably look at skaters and all that as like degenerates and shit. So
some people,
yeah. So I wonder, like, has anybody had a problem with this, like turning this church into a skate park?
Not like very occasionally, not almost never to our face. Like on a couple, there's been 2 or 3 occasions where someone has like vocally expressed like a disdain for the fact that like we have graffiti all over the skate park that's in it. Most of the time they're kind of like hiding behind a comment thread when they're talking shit. And like I kind of as a lot of people do, anonymity brings a lot of shit talking. But a lot of the criticisms are about like kind of the idea of like sacrilege, but like to me it's like this church was built as like a community space to bring community of people together, and it's like still doing that. Like it's just
in a different
community, and the idea that someone's like, well, it was for my community and now it's for a different community. It's like, well, I don't know, man, like your community quit using it and like let it fall down, and we didn't want that to happen, and so we saved it. And the times we've got like real people like in our face being like, well, guys, I don't know, like usually they kind of back off that position when I explain what we're doing or why we're doing it and our reasons for it. It just was one lady one time who was like really upset by it. I kind of talked to her about it, and she was like, well, I think, you guys should have found some other ways of raising the money to save the building. I was like, oh, lady, you want to like throw me a bake sale or something? Like, like we're doing it. Like, if you're more than welcome to come help. If you've got some way of raising the money, the thousands of dollars that we've raised to fix this building, like I'm all ears. Like, but like the skateboarding aspect of it was skateboarding is very important, like for a lot of different reasons. Like I don't skate anymore. I used to roll around a little bit back in the day when I was much younger, but like skateboarding is super important to like kind of urban street culture.
Definitely.
This place was perfect for skateboarding. Like it would have been dope if none of these ramps were here and we just had like a church to come skate at. Like that would be like, skateboarding was like the perfect thing to save this place,
I thought so too.
Because just the flat ground, like the smooth surface would have been dope, but like all these ramps and everything is just a cherry on top. You know?
When we first got this place with my part of Force back in the day. I mean, I told him immediately, I was like, we should put a skate park in here. Like, that would be so dope. And Bedwell was the dude I knew who built skate parks. Like, and so I worked at the City Museum as a welder for a long time with my buddy Robbie Dixon. And Rob died, and him and Bedwell helped build a park under the Kings Highway Bridge, the KHBT park, before it was demoed. And so I met Brian because I lived with Rob in the art lofts next to the City Museum. Like, our apartment pretty much looked like this. It was like a half pipe in our living room. It was wrapped. Everywhere I lived, graffiti. Everywhere I lived used to look like a trashy dive bar at all times. And dope. So Rob died, and I knew Bedwell, and so when I got this, I just reached out to him like, hey man, we need a lot of help. I know you have like an army of teenagers that you build shit with. Would you want to come put some ramps in here? And he was like, fuck yeah. And so he came through, and he, at that time, Uncle John, my buddy John Dudry, who was the head of maintenance at the City Museum, he was already here in the building and helping us do it, because there's a lot of problems that were going on with this building that I just didn't like know exactly. I knew like kind of how to fix it. Like, I know how to patch a slate roof, and I know how to do a lot of the plumb, but like not exactly the best way to tackle the specific problems. And John's been like John is just like one of those old school craftsman guys. Like, John knows how to build and fix everything. Like literally, and I like, people use that word everything very like liberally, like, oh yeah, that guy can build anything. But like, John can fucking build anything. Like, he is one of them old school handlebar mustache having, like, done it all old builder guys. And this building would not still be here without John. And then so John, he kept us in check quite a bit on like, we can't do this, we got to do that, this is first priority, that's this skating, we got to move this ramp here because of this with the floor, and spotting problems that we didn't necessarily see. And then Bedwell also, man, Bedwell has done a whole bunch of maintenance work, and then I've got a bunch of construction and maintenance background, and so that's part of the reason we're able to work on this, is just because we all perform a lot of the stuff. Like, we do it all ourselves as much as we can.
What were some of the biggest issues like when you first got this building?
Oh fuck.
Long list, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if we'd got this building 5 years maybe later than we got it, it might have been kind of like past the point of like kind of too far gone to really be able to DIY it together. I mean, there was some pretty serious water coming in the roof. We took care of that. The tower, we've done extensive work to that tower, tuck pointing, a shit ton of really bad tuck pointing, because, you know, all the downspouts are copper, so they all got stolen back in the day, and then they washed those bricks out, and then those downspouts let water go into the basement because they're no longer dropping in the storm sewers, so that caused like mold and other problems down there. We had a structural beam that was failing. There's a ton of stuff, and a lot of things that needed to get fixed like in a fairly timely manner, because like water and weather getting in the building, like, it really destroys the place very quickly, to the point where, like, you know, we want to focus more on doing a lot of the programming and like doing the work we want to do with kids and stuff, but like until you kind of get the building buttoned up, it's kind of a moot point, you know. Like, you can't, you know, like worry about building out the art center in the basement until there's like windows upstairs, you know, like, and so a lot of those issues were pretty paramount, like in getting it all together. So yeah, the tower was fucking really sketchy, but a lot of those. So when we first started, me and John and Bedwell and Forrest to some extent. And then later we kind of confirmed those things with Gabe McKee from V3 Architects and Brian Forsey from Frontenac Engineers. Brian is an inline skater, inline Brian. He's a badass. He's a badass. And Gabe is a super badass architect. But me and Brian and those guys and John went around the building and kind of broke things into like, all right, so these repairs, these are like urgent, like fucking now. And then these repairs are important, like these are very important, or, you know, these are, and then these are like, we need to do this shit, and this is like this can wait. And so like the list of urgent stuff, I mean, there was some stuff like when we got up to the tower, like some of the large facade stones on the peak of the tower were like just been delaminating off from the building, like where I could get my hand behind them, and we ratchet strapped. We were like, oh shit, and we ratchet strapped all those stones back up just to like hold them for a minute until we could get Nick Mendon from Mendon Masonry over, who is a fucking, that dude did us the biggest solid ever. Came through and on the homie deal helped me and Bedwell. There's Bedwell. Hey Bedwell, hold on. We rolling?
He's ready to skate.
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay. He helped me and Bedwell do the top of the tower. And when we got up there to actually start doing the stones, like we kind of, Nick was like, yo, like you didn't put them ratchet straps on. That's all that's holding these big stones up here now. So we pinned them all in place and retuck pointed everything up there and resealed it all up because it was, leaking water everywhere and fucking everything else up. And so that's a big repair. There's been a laundry list of like pretty good size repairs that we've done on the building that were like real urgent that needed to happen.
Well, let's go back a little bit. So who first discovered that this church could be built into this? Like who found the church when it was vacant?
So technically Forrest did. So there was a urban farm next door called New Roots Urban Farm. And they were connected loosely with the Karen House that's next door. So that's like a homeless shelter that was operating out of the convent. And so kind of the way, I guess, the history of the church, which kind of leads into how we got it, is in like, I think 92, they quit. The archdiocese shut the parish down just because nobody was coming here anymore. They're having mass, nobody's showing up, and it just don't make no sense for them to maintenance this massive building that nobody goes to. Right. And the decline happened of North St. Louis for all sorts of reasons, for like, redlining and white flight, and then also just like the change in demographic. A lot of industry moved out of St. Louis, and like, when they built this church in 1850 to 1870, it took them like 20 years to build it. Figured maybe the Civil War in the 1860s might have slowed them down a little bit. But like at that time, St. Louis was bigger than Chicago, and there's a huge German population here in St. Louis that ran all the brick making and shoes and a lot of stuff. And they were one of the most kind of powerful communities in St. Louis. And so, at that time, everyone in that community would give 10% of everything they owned to the church. They tithe it. And so that all went into building this. So, the society that kind of built buildings like this just like straight doesn't exist anymore. People don't build things like this anymore. No. There's the funding mechanisms and the desire to build them ain't there. And so so the parish shut down in like 92, and they kind of stored a bunch of shit here, the archdiocese did. And then they were running the Karen House over there. They started running a homeless shelter out of the convent. And eventually they approached the archdiocese and they were like, yo, we want to own the convent. And the archdiocese was like, well, you can't buy it. We'll give it to you, but you have to take all three buildings. Like it's like a 3-building complex, the convent, the church, and a rectory. You had to take the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. And they're like, well, we don't want this massive fucking church. They're like, well, I mean, like that's the deal, take it or leave it. So they took it, and they formed a separate LLC to isolate themselves from liability. And then Karen House started renting it, and like they were like kind of asleep at the wheel as far as maintaining the church goes and stuff. I mean, like they run an amazing and ran an amazing shelter for women and children, but like managing this massive structure is definitely like not in their wheelhouse, and it was falling apart. And the dude who they rented it, he stole all the marble and the stained glass and ripped out all the walnut and like all the low-hanging fruit. He kind of snowed it
because he thought it was like going down.
He knew what was going on. I mean, I think he knew what he had. That old Munich Victorial stained glass, that shit is worth like $700 a square foot.
Oh yeah.
We went and talked to Emil Fry. They're in Kirkwood that did the glass here, and in the 1800s it was them and Tiffany's that did most of the like really nice stained glass around the country. And we went and talked to Steve Fry. He was an awesome dude. He knew my boss at the City Museum, Bob Castley. We like swap Bob stories for a while, and so I mean, he knew we know the guys that stole it, but whatever, man. It's in the past. So like, we own a farm down in DeSoto called Such and Such Farm, where we do like custom farming for fine dining restaurants. Sit down with chefs with seed catalogs. Like, what do you want me to grow you this year? Like, you're an artist. I got a paint factory. We'll grow you anything you want. And then we raise Razorback Russian wild boar hybrid pigs and goats and chickens and ducks and a bunch of shit. And so, but at the time, I don't know anything about farming. We just got that land. And so there's an urban farm next door called New Roots. And I just showed up there one day like, hey, we like work together. Like, be sister farms. I don't know anything about farming. And Forrest was working there at the time. And he was also volunteering at the Karen House. And he was like, well, cool, yeah, we can work on farming stuff. He's like, you know anything about working on old buildings? And I've been working for the City Museum as a welder there for years. And I was like, yeah, bro, I know a lot about that. And he's like, well, nobody wants to help me come up in this church next door and start shoveling pigeon shit out the tower. I was like, where are your fucking shovels at? And we started working on the building a little bit. And then me and him went and approached Karen House. And we're like, you should just give us this building. And they were like, yeah, we should. Because they were worried at the time, they were mostly worried about this real estate developer on the north side named Paul McKee getting the building. Because he's gobbled up a lot of real estate up here. He's a pretty polarizing guy. A lot of people do not like Paul McKee.
Because he's tearing down like the history and rebuilding new shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, but also like his method for acquiring buildings, and the fact he kind of just lets them fall down, and because he has a plan for like this giant redevelopment. So I imagine in his eyes, he's on some like, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break some egg shit. But those eggs are like people's lives. Like, so kind of go to somebody and be like, hey, oh man, I want to buy your house. I'll give you like 50 grand. And you'll be like, no man, I'm not trying to sell my house. And my grandpa built this house. I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life. Plus, it's worth at least like 80, so I'm definitely not selling for 50. And they'll be like, all right, cool. And they'll buy like the 2 houses next door and take all the doors and windows off and let all the crackheads and pigeons move in and be like, cool, how about 30 now, motherfucker? And like, and he just did that a million times. And like, a lot of people up here on the north side do not like him. I mean, and the folks at Karen House at the time, they did not like him. But they were worried he would get this church and let it fall down while I was next to their building. And they were not able to maintenance it, and so they gave it to me and Forrest. And so we took over their LLC that they made. We never technically bought the building. They all stepped off the LLC and we stepped onto it. And there's some benefits about transferring property that way that we kind of use to be able to work on the building more. When you actually sell a building, there's a big process, but because the building never technically sold, we just took over the LLC. So a lot of the, which is beneficial for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, and so when we first got it, I was like, we should put a skate park in here. I think that would be so epic, and like a street art gallery. And we started with the street art gallery, and it took me a little bit of time to convince Forrest that we should do the skate park. But eventually, it definitely all worked out.
Damn. So it's crazy how like from the farming that kind of linked you up with Forrest, which brought you here, because you didn't know who Forrest was before.
Yeah, I just showed up there one day. I just showed up on there one day.
Sounds like it was meant to be.
Yeah,
Holy
meant to
shit.
be. Like, that's like fate for you guys to like link up and save this shit.
Well, yeah, and then also Forrest moved away too, so he's been gone now for years, and kind of left me and Bedwell to run the place. And after a while, Bedwell and John were like, "Yo, we've been working for free on this shit for a while. We want to we're gonna keep doing this. We need to own a chunk of it." And we were like, we debate, we negotiate, of course, on what percentage, but eventually we all agreed on a percentage, and so we gave Brian and John percentage ownership of the church, and so they're owners of it now too. And then Forrest has been kind of uninvolved for many years. He moved to Colorado with his lady, and he's doing his thing out there. And we're talking to him now about his like kind of, as we're moving into a more legitimate phase of the church, which I mean I've been kind of executing this plan with Bedwell and John for 6 or 7 years now, kind of Forrest level of involvement from here on out, since he's not like here in person to work on it, which makes things kind of difficult for a lot of different ways.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I mean, now moving forward, we'll start building the art center that we've been planning for all this time. That's always been our goal, is to build an art center for kids in North St. Louis.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. And that's in this church?
Yeah, that would be in the basement, and the rectory next door. That we acquired the rectory a couple years ago too. Because skateboarding is like I said, it's like super important, man. Like it's very important in like street culture for lots of, and urban culture for a lot of different reasons, man. Like it's almost like a great equalizer. Like it doesn't, community. And it teaches community, exactly, and it teaches you very valuable life lessons. Getting back up when you fall down, and also like it doesn't, like your kind of like race or socioeconomic background doesn't matter. Like you could be the really rich kid with wealthy parents that buy you the best gear, and it don't fucking mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. You could just be like the poorest kid at the skate park with some shitty hand-me-down board, and you own that park because you just got fucking heart, and like that type of mentality is a beautiful metaphor for life. And then the art center that we want to pair with it is important too, just because, especially in St. Louis, like y'all are from St. Louis, right? There's like St. Louis has got a lot of underserved communities in it, especially up here. And so like it just creates this, like on the north side and all over the city for that matter, like this massive like loss of creative potential. Like if you grow up you know, in a lot of neighborhoods in St. Louis, like down on the State Streets or like Kenlock or Walnut Park or St. Louis Place up here by us, and a lot of different places, man, all over the city, quite frankly. Like you may not ever like know that you know, love printmaking or podcasting or photography. Like you never get to do those things to like find out you love them. You're just trying to, you know, survive in your neighborhood. Like, you know, and so like there's no opportunity to like explore different disciplines and artistic stuff. You know, your parents don't send you to like art camp and stuff.
Oh, right,
as a kid.
right.
You know, you don't ever get to, no one sits you in front of a pottery wheel or whatever to teach you how to do these things. You never find out that that's your passion.
Yeah.
You just, you know, take the lot that you got. And so like, and that's, I think it just creates this, you know, and so like within that vein, it's not like there's like a lack of talent or a lack of aptitude. There's like a lack of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like we have an opportunity to kind of help that a little bit. And if we have the opportunity to do it, then we will. And that's kind of me and Bedwell and John and Forrest and all that. That's kind of like what we've been talking about doing from the get-go, is starting this art center. So we have a non-for-profit called the Liborius Urban Art Studios, the Lewis in St. Louis, and that's kind of what we're doing. And then the skate park, Sk8 Liborius, is sort of like the tip of the spear in that effort. It's like the edge of the knife, just in that, like, when I talk to people that run other like youth centers and art centers, like they all say the same thing. They're all like, you know, we're like, what's the hardest part about running your youth center? They're all like, oh, you know, just getting kids in the door and making them feel like engaged by the programming that we all work so hard on. And then when you talk to those kids, you're like, how come you want to go to that place and like be engaged by these people's programming? They're always like, yo, that place is fucking lame. Like, I don't want to go there. It sucks there. Yeah. But like this church is not lame. Like kids, they beat the door down to come here. And then when they're here, then you can really, you can make an impact. Then you're like, yo, have you ever done any woodworking? Like, yo, we're building ramps tomorrow. Do you know how to use a saw? Like, we're gonna do some welding. Like, have you ever tried this, that? And then you can, you know, you kind of got them in. And that's a half the battle right there, is getting kids interest. They want to be here.
Yeah, well, it's like the rawness of it. It's you know, like the YMCA, like not to bash them or nothing.
I know what you mean, though.
But when you go to those places, you kind of feel judged by the people, like you know what I mean? Like, but here you it's like no judgment. I mean, you can just it being so raw here. Like, you know, this is familiar. This is like, you know, you don't get that feeling when you walk into a place like this, like you're being judged. You know what I mean?
That's very important to us, man. Like, that people feel really like at home and comfortable. Like a lot of the art that's on the walls, some of it is from some pretty well-known graffiti writers and muralists, but a lot of it is just like folks from town, like local graffiti writers. Like we had a group that was coming in yesterday. Not yesterday, I'm sorry, like last week. A dude came through, he was driving cross country with his kids, and they came through and they're like, can we paint? We're like, absolutely, you can paint. And like, well, we'll paint it over, you know, but like, till then, you know, like teach, you know, kids love that stuff. And it's like, it's important to create these like opportunities for kids to be able to explore that stuff, you know, and because a lot of times, you know, you don't, you know, it's that whole like teach a man to fish instead of give a man a fish type of thing, you know, and that a lot of people, they just need like a push in the right direction. And then from there, like we hope to like help teach kids how to like monetize those types of hobbies. That might be a little further down the line, because like, you know, because that's the real goal, I think, is that, you know, like every day is a vacation if you love your occupation. Yeah. Like if you love what you do, you don't ever have to work a day in your life.
Most definitely.
And that the more people that can do that, you know, like the better of a world we have, you know. Yeah. And so it's a bit of that too. And being able to do that really just takes like somebody taking the time to, because a lot of that shit is not complicated. Being able to like kind of start doing some of this shit, it just takes, you know, someone showing you. And most people go 100,000, you know, 100 G's in debt to go to a university to learn that stuff. And a lot of times you don't have to. Like we get, like, for example, I think a good example, there'll be a lot of kids that want to be rappers. They all want to like, or be musicians. And like, you just sit down and be like, hey, like, we got a recording studio here, which we intend to. We do not now, but we will. And be like, if you want to record an album, you can, but like you have to write your rhymes at home. You don't write them in the studio. That's go time. That's work time. There's the engineer on the clock here, and like that's when you do it. And then like if you want to book a show, like we have a venue here, and like this is how you approach our booking agent. Matter of fact, that's how you approach all booking agents. And like, do you need to sell merch at your show? Like these kids have got the silkscreen shop. Like get them to print your T-shirts. Find out what that like here's how much you got to charge to make your overhead back. And like, do you want to you need to sell tickets to your show, and like like, or if you want to, like you're a painter, like here's how you don't just show up to a gallery to get a gallery show. You need to present a portfolio. Here's how you lay a portfolio out. Like, and a lot of this stuff, like it's not super complicated. It's just like it's difficult to get that initial knowledge, and it's like it's the same thing everyone always talks about. Like every time you see a job, it's like must have experience to do this job, but like you have to get the job to get the experience in the first place. And so there's this gap there. And if you can bridge that, then that helps to bridge like the skill gap people are talking about that always exists. And so then we can play our part in that. But we're focusing on kind of more creative disciplines and also kind of like construction arts too. Because I think, even like framing and plumbing and electric, there's an art to that type of stuff too. It's different than graffiti or skateboarding, which is art too. But that's kind of the goal of what we're doing here and why. All within, and then saving the building too. All housed in the oldest German Gothic church west of the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Dude, that's such a beautiful vision, man. Like, honestly, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people might not know they like building shit until they come firsthand with that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, hands-on with it. And especially the monetizing part, like you're saying, like a lot of people don't know how to make money off of the things that they love doing. Like that's a hard concept to grasp.
Shit, we had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Like trial and error, no guidance at all.
Exactly.
So that would be amazing. I wish we had you guys when I was younger. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
honestly.
That's something very also that Bedwell's been doing for years with like that KHVT thing, is that like that Kings Highway Park was all volunteer funded, and like he's like Bedwell I think was really good at identifying like a lot of these young kids and giving, like there's a bunch of them kids that work with him that like they don't do nothing. Like Bedwell talking about to pour concrete and do framing and build ramps and stuff. And then I've done that with other folks at our farm with farming and other construction. Like our whole crew out at the farm for years and years and years were just like kind of transient kids, and they would come in not knowing nothing, and then they would leave knowing how to weld and do woodworking and concrete, and like we're doing the same thing here. And so me and Bedwell and Uncle John as well, like Uncle John also has just mentored a shit ton of young boys in his life, and like teaching them how to do a lot of the stuff. Like if you learn how to do these things, you don't have to pay somebody to do it. And so me, John, and Bedwell in that regard, that's been something that all of us I know have been very like passionate about, is the idea that like when I look at like young kids, like you just kind of like see yourself when you were 12, and like I think about all the shit that I wish I would have known and the opportunity to do it. And I know that particular aspect is super, super important to Brian, John, and me, is like the mentoring aspect of it. And so we're going to try that out. I guess plan B, if the art center doesn't work out, is just, I know Brian really wants to pour a concrete skate park in the basement, which cut a hole in the floor with a ramp going down. And
that would be sick.
Hey, no doubt, man. Me and him talked about this many times. Like, I have no doubt that would be the most epic shit in the world. But my like always dispute to that is like, yo, man, I got no doubt we could pour a dope concrete park, but you can't like unpour a concrete park in the basement.
No,
so let's
that's true.
like once we do it, like we're all in on concrete park. Maybe we'll do like a little part first or something. I don't know. We'll see. But like that's kind of. But at first we'll try the art center and stuff. Maybe there might be some concrete in the basement at some point.
Yeah, didn't he put one in the back of his skate shop?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a concrete mini ramp in the back?
I don't know if it was concrete in the back at No Coast. That was, I wish Bedwell was here.
Because that would be insane,
Wish he was here. I think it was, I don't know. I think it was a wood ramp in No Coast, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I don't really even skate for real. I used to skate a little bit back in the day, but
I'm surprised you don't, man, with all this shit right here.
I'll be honest, I've come in here like late when I know no one's around and like fall in private. But people kind of give me, some of the homies give me shit sometimes. Like, how come you got a skate park, you don't even skate? I'm like, it's like how you like hip hop, but you don't rap. It's just like, it's just like that. It's exactly like that.
You can appreciate it from a distance, but not
like
participate.
People who like run record labels and are show promoters that love music and shit, like they're very important to those communities, even though they don't make music and and because they believe in music and they know that it's important for many different things and like has very positive ripples throughout society that affects everyone. And I feel as though action sports are the exact same way, even though I don't personally skate anymore, although I have been like entertaining the idea of kind of getting back into it. But I understand that it's very important for kids, and part of it's just I'm old now, man. And a lot of guys who skated their whole life and they're old, they can still roll around, but I have to go back through that learning curve again because it's been so long. And
I feel that, dude.
I need to. If I break my arm, I'm not gonna make any money. Use my body to make my living.
Right.
So, falling now is a lot different than falling when you're young.
I mean, when I was a kid, I could ollie over a thing, and that was about as far as it got. And then I just kind of got out of it and got into different shit, And so, getting back into it now would be challenging. Maybe I'll wait till I'm in a spot where I could possibly get hurt for a month and not be
have to worry about it.
Man. If I break my wrist and I can't weld or do whatever, I can't. I'm farming and doing metal fabrication, so I need my hand. I need it. I need it, man. I can't not be able to lift and do and walk and shit. It's not a risk I'm willing to take. But I have come in here before and rolled around a little bit, and I ate shit immediately. I was like, anybody around? No. I think everybody said they was out drinking. They ain't gonna be back for a few hours. There's that board over there. All right. I brought this tennis shoes with me on purpose. Hit the steel toes off. I'm gonna do this. All right, fuck it. I'm doing it. And within 5 seconds, I was like, fuck this shit. Laying on my back. I just tried to roll in on that shallow motherfucker right there. And made it over to the and as soon as I got up top, just shot board
out.
So, and I was I gave it 2 or 3 more tries, and then eventually I got up and could pivot around and went back. I'm all right, done for today. Did it. One run, no fall. I'm done. And I've done that maybe once or twice, but
how was the first event you guys threw here?
The back in the day, the first one.
Yeah.
So the first event was pre-Brian and John. That was just me and Forrest Forrest's girlfriend Elizabeth and my wife now, but at the time girlfriend Autumn, threw a Halloween party here with it was 2012 and it was all that Mayan apocalypse shit. So we threw an apocalypse party. And we didn't really realize at the time that this place is a giant acoustic guitar. And so we just had regular sound and shit. And the neighbors in the morning were fighting mad. Because we went all night, went to 6 in the morning and it was absurdly loud. We didn't even think about it. Now, we have a formula and Bedwell runs a company with Alexis Tucci, who's a homie called Night Chaser, and they do a Burning Man camp, and they do a bunch of other stuff, and they've thrown some events at the church, and so now we've kind of got the sound in the basement dialed in. We kind of got the soundproofing up, and we can throw events down there for years, and nobody knows there's parties going down in there, and a lot of that is kind of me and Beto would walk around and listen to the levels and be I don't know, man, you think that's too loud? I don't know. Let's go tell them to turn it down just a little bit. And then we'd be all right, I think this will be okay. And then we'd be they turned it up. Fuck, turn it back down. The DJ's But that first one, that was the first one. And it, because really throwing events is the only way for making money. There was no other way that we could do it. The building needed so much work, so much work before we could. And so that's what we're doing now is we are trying to get occupancy permits to be able to actually really have the building be a legitimate business, open the skate park publicly and start the art center, get the rectory up and going, and start doing some programming and stuff. But to do that, we have to raise a pretty significant amount of money. To finish the construction.
Fixing the windows, all that shit takes a lot of money.
Our plan for a while was we were just gonna pick away at it for 30 years, but now they're gonna put that NGA in 4 blocks down the way, the National Geospatial Mapping Administration. It's a government. They run the satellites for the federal government. They're the eyes of the federal government. And so that's a 1.7 or $2 billion government facility. And then they're building the hospital in Pruitt-Igoe, which is an old projects down there. And that's being coupled with a couple billion other houses. So they're gonna put $5 billion into our zip code. So our kind of security through obscurity is over. You know, before like they kind of didn't really care. All right, a bunch of dudes fixing up a church, whatever. You know, no big deal, keeping it from falling down. But now they kind of have to care. You know, like now there's a lot going on, and so we formed the Liborius Urban Art Studios non-for-profit to start heading down the way. We're like, all right, man, we got to actually go on this. But that involves us, you know, raising a lot of money and doing non-for-profit arts administration, which are things that are not at all, I think, in my wheelhouse. Betwell has some experience with running nonprofit because he's been running KHVT for like 10 years, and they built that Peter Matthews Memorial Skate Garden. He got Tony Hawk Foundation to give him like 25 G's to build that. So me and Betwell sit on the board for that. So he's got a bunch of experience in that. And my wife went to school for non-for-profit arts administration. So we've got some kind of people in our camp to be able to do that. But like, it's a whole new thing, man, of being like, it's one thing to fix a building up, but like managing and running an arts administration complex and like grant writing and funding. And like, it's just a whole nother world in there. Like, you know, in a way, like we've been fixing up the building and then that kind of stops. And then we get that, we raise all the money and like, all right, now we have the money. Cool, we can fix the building up. Then you like build the construction phase. Like, all right, we got to like cut holes in the floor and build staircases for egress and bathrooms and fix the roof and all this. And then it's like, all right, holy shit, we did it. Let's apply. We get our occupancy permit. It's like, oh, fuck, all this 10 years, we'd be probably 12 at that point. We have it, occupancy. But like, and I kind of, like think about the fact, like, all right, now we have it. Like now, like the real work actually starts. Like at that point, it starts. Like then we have an arts administration, arts organization to run, and like that's like a whole entire other wheelhouse there too. And like, I try not to think that far down the line because it just gets real daunting. You know, so just think about like, I just try to think about 5 or 6 tasks ahead. And like,
So when did this start getting traction? Because like I seen Nitro Circus post about this. Obviously Vice, Steve Berra, you know.
So, I mean, I've been very careful with the media that we do on purpose, like because like I knew we had to launch this big fundraising campaign, and like the way we would have to do it with the city, you know, you have to talk to your alderman first, because if you go to the city before you go alderman, you piss your alderman off because they don't know what's going on in their ward, and then you got to go to the city and to come to them correct, we kind of with hat in hand, like, hey, so we've been working on this building, but we're trying to be legit. We're sorry. Like we have architects, and you know, Gabe McKee's been helping us through that process with some other people that we were lucky enough to work with at the city that have been helping us. And then you kind of, you do all that, and then you can start doing media and promoting, because if the city sees you fundraising on the fucking news, like, you know, then they look like assholes. You know, you're out there doing shit, and they're like, these motherfuckers didn't even like come through the city, you know, like, and then it's gonna be a bad relationship. And so we haven't done any local St. Louis press at all. I think every magazine, newspaper, television, radio, print has hit me or Brian up 20 times, and we basically explain the scenario to them and tell them we can't do it, because, you know, like it kind of people in charge that could potentially give us trouble. You know, they don't necessarily watch Vice News, but they watch the 6 o'clock news. So there's that aspect of it. But then also we've been careful with the news we're doing not to blow it up, because, you know, we need to harness the eyes on it to funnel towards the donate button, because, you know, people only see it for the first time one time and are excited about it. And so we've done like Vice, we did Atlas Obscura, Nitro Circus did a thing about it. We've done like a thing in like a religious news. We just did an episode of Betty for this HBO show, Betty. So we'll do the last episode of their 2nd season. And we do very specific things within, you know, like skateboarding or art and stuff. But as far as like large media stuff, we really stay away from all that because we're not ready yet. Like, but pretty soon, like, we're getting all our paperwork now. It's just doing survey work today. Was getting letters of support from aldermen, and then we can present all our stuff for our zoning change and begin raising money for our occupancy permits, construction costs. And at that point, we don't have to hide anymore. Like, then we're out there and we can really start doing media and explain what we're doing and why. And hopefully the goal is to raise enough money to cover the cost of the construction that we need to do in order to get the open occupancy permits, in order to build all the things we have to do in order to the construction to open the place up to the public. Because right now it's just a private club, because that's the way we have to operate it.
Right.
And And we do open sessions a couple times a week, but like, you know, we got to keep things kind of small and chill. We don't do a lot of news. We don't do a lot of press. It started blowing up. So like, that's kind of where we're at on it intentionally. But it just organically has just started kind of growing. Like we kind of got on the front page of Reddit a little while ago.
Oh, no shit.
Randomly. And like the Nitro Circus thing, they did the write-up. Vice just reached out to us and we agreed to do that. And a lot of these things kind of tend to snowball. But we kind of keep it in this underground sort of a thing very intentionally. Like our homie Zach Warden is a local BMX kind of athlete. Zach's like the most humble dude in the world. Like you would never, like he's like, oh yeah, I ride bikes for a living. And we're like, that's cool, man. He doesn't mention, he's like, yeah, I have like, I don't know, about like 3 golds, 2 silvers, and a bronze in the X Games. And big jump here. He's the most humble dude in the world. He's the nicest dude in the world. He built that vert ramp like by himself alone. I mean, like I helped a little bit. Bedwell helped him a little bit, but for the most part, Zach Warden just built that thing, just beasted, savage mode that thing out.
That's insane.
And dude. So, but we sponsored Zach one year at the X Games, kind of almost as like a goof. Like our farm sponsored him. We're like, we'll give you barbecue like cuts. Like we wear a shirt on the ESPN. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And so we went up to me and Bedwell and Joss and some other folks in the project. We all went up to Minneapolis, the X Games. And when we would talk to people out there, it showed me we were doing it right because we'd meet all these athletes. We'd be like, oh, we're with Sk8 Liborius. And they'd be like, what the fuck is that? And we'd be like, oh, we pull it up on our phone. Be like, oh, shit, that's you guys.
Yeah.
And like people have seen it. But they don't know like what it is or where it is or who it is. And like, it's all like my friend went to a party there. I know a guy who skated there once. And that was very evident on the Reddit thing because like people were like, oh, I had a lot of fun reading the comments. It was like, oh yeah, that place is in Detroit. No, I heard it's in Spain. No, it's in London. No, that's in LA. Me and my dad, we helped work on that place. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. Like, but that's perfect. That's exactly what we want because we launch it. We want to launch it like on our terms. That me and Bedwell and John and our marketing team, Rachel and Ryan, have all put together so that we can properly, you know, fund the whole thing so we can have like a long future with it.
That's
we only got one shot to do it.
Yeah, that is so smart. And it's crazy how big this place has gotten and you haven't even officially launched yet.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it's got to feel amazing.
It's like, I'd say it's like 90% awesome and like 10% like terrifying.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Because like
because like you said, you're not really ready for that. Like,
I don't know what's gonna happen when we launch. Like I've never done a local news story. Like people know about it all over the world. Like it's starting to get to the point where like a lot of the comments on our Instagram page, I can't read them because they're in like other languages. And
that is crazy.
And it's very cool, man. And it's neat to have people reach out to do it. It's flattering to see people appreciate what you and your homies have built. But like, again, we're about to like step through this door into this next phase, which we ultimately have to go to and has been our goal from the get-go to do. And now we're like getting ready to do it. And that's always that leap in any of the other projects I've worked on is always like super daunting. Like that's like when me and my wife quit our jobs to like farm on our full time. Like that shit was scary as shit. It was super scary to be like, all right, we're selling a lot of shit. People want to buy it. We did the math. I think we can make a living off. All right.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3 ramen noodles. You know, but like that's the way you got to do it. Is you just work real fucking hard. You just work your ass off and do it the best you can.
Yeah,
you know?
and just hope it works out because you can't really plan. I mean, you can only plan so far. You know, you never know what the future is really gonna bring.
Yeah, exactly. And you just got to work your ass off. I mean, that's a lot of it, of just any entrepreneurial thing. I mean, Bedwell also, he's got like 4 companies he runs. I do too. You know, I got like a metal fabrication thing at the farm. I got this. I got a couple other things I work on. He's got Night Chaser and, you know, a concrete company called Always Hard, and then this church project and other stuff he's doing too. And like, it's just like, that's kind of this is kind of the way that we try to do stuff, you know. But you know, you gotta, and it's kind of how you gotta do it. But like, again, the every days of it, like I love it. I love doing it. It doesn't feel like work a lot of times. Sometimes it does, you know, like nothing's 100% awesome. But in general, like I enjoy all of those things. So a lot of times it's not like work. Like I love welding and working with my homies from the City Museum, building crazy shit. I love building this place, the church out, and doing all sorts of the things that we do here, and working with Bedwell and John and everybody to fix up this place. I love farming and working with animals and plants, and being able to live on a farm with my wife. And we just had a daughter and our kid. And have that environment to raise her in. And so like a lot of times it's a lot of work and it doesn't feel like it. And I think that's important. Like you have to, you have to love, because it allows you to more easily put in the hours that you have to do if you're going to be successful
with it. Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You know, there's no way around it. Like you have to just grind hard, you know, no days off type of shit, you know?
Yeah.
There was I think a lot of people kind of overlook that aspect of like what it takes to like pull off big, crazy, weird stuff like this. Like, a lot of people do, because they ask I think people ask very genuinely. Like, I know they ask Bedwell and me all the time, like, how do you guys find the time? You know, like I had a friend of mine, wife asked me to kind of illustrate this point. Like a year or two ago, my wife makes a lot of, like, we have pigs and goats, and so she uses the lard and the milk and makes soap. We have a line of soap in a couple of retail stores, and she hangs out and makes soap, and we sell it online and at farmers markets, and she makes up funny names. It's awesome. You can buy it on the website, such and such farm. We hand grow, you know, she grows all the botanicals and then hand makes all the soap.
Shout that out. Where can people find that stuff?
Such and such farm.com.
Oh, that's really what it is.
Yeah, that's the name of the that's the name of the farm.
I thought you were just being humble, like you didn't want to shout it out. Such and such farm.
Yeah, such and such farm. It's like it was like a placeholder. We didn't really know what to call it. We thought it was a joke. Because whenever anybody names a farm, if you look at farms, it's always like action word, like action word, nature word, farm, like jumping cow farm, flowing river
happy
farm,
cow.
happy goat farm, or like such and such farm. And like our metal fabrication company is similar too. It's BLA Studios, blah. Like it doesn't mean anything. It's just BLA. Like it's like Builder Lunatic Association. Bunch of loser assholes. Build literally anything. Because if you look at construction companies, it's all three letters. It's like CFE excavation. And,
right.
And RBJ construction. It's always three letters. And then what was I saying? Oh, the farm thing. So a friend of ours about doing work to build shit. So she asked me in autumn, she was like, so I want to do soap. We're like, yeah, we can totally help you. We'd love to help you. Like, we'll help you do whatever. We'll show you recipes. We can sell you goat's milk from our goats. We can help you raise your own goats. And if that's what you're trying to do, she's like, it's like my dream to do that. We're like, yeah, no, it's not as hard as you might think. We'll totally help you out. She's like, I just got to figure out the timing. And we're like, well, what timing are you trying to figure out? She's like, well, I just got to figure out, you know, how I'm going to find the time to do it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I got to figure out how am I going to, she was like, work my 40-hour-a-week job and then find like the 40 hours a week to start my business. I was like, oh, it's very easy. You work 80 fucking hours a week. Like you just like going to movies and playing video games and going out to dinner. You don't do that anymore because you're like building your shit and like that's what you want to do. And like, quite frankly, you don't want to even do that anymore because that takes away from the thing that's more important to you that you're working on. And like that's the way you have to do it. Like there's no other way to do, at least that I've found, you know, to like kind of do a bunch of shit. You know, you got to just grind.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably when I called Bedwell why he's I was like, you doing this podcast? Like, nah, man, I got stuff I'm doing. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So he's not sitting over here. It's like I respect that, man. You know,
definitely.
I feel him. Like today was a weird day where I actually had a big block booked out and you guys needed this chunk of time, and I had survey where we're surveying the property for our zoning. So I was doing that with Ted this morning, and then we had a music video shooting here. And so I kind of had that going on while I was surveying. But the survey we finished up super quick, so I actually had like a little time to kill, which doesn't happen very frequently. And then after I leave here, I'm going to another meeting for the non-for-profit to get some of that shit together, and that starts at 9, and then I'll go home, get up tomorrow, and do it all again. You know.
Oh shit!
So got up with my daughter at 5 o'clock in the morning to get my wife on the road to go to the farmers market at 6 a.m. and then met Ted over here, and then took a look at some work on the farm, and then headed over here and met Ted at 9 and did surveying all day, and then nice long 16-hour day. That's how you got to do it.
It's literally not finding the time; it's making the time. Because that's where we're at too. Like with this podcast, I mean, doing our shit like to get by, and then making time to do this type of stuff. You know, you have to make it work.
You have to.
If you want that life, you know what I mean. Because it would be easy to stop at a 9 to 5 and that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, but that's not like what we want to do. You know what I mean?
That's why not everyone's entrepreneurs.
Yeah, because they can't.
A lot of people can't even handle that.
Balance that time.
It's hard. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
And I mean that's the. if you don't make time, you never have time. It's about scheduling and stuff. But it's tough. Like the best part about working for yourself is that nobody tells you what to do, and the worst part is that nobody fucking tells you what to do. You just have to figure it out. It's daunting.
You got to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, it's daunting, and it's daunting to have to kind of make decisions that affect people you care about and stuff, and try to kind of hold it all together, and that's why I'm very fortunate with this project. Like, honestly, if Bedwell and John were not involved, I would be able to do this, and I assume vice versa, because there's times like at the skate session on Friday, for example, I was like going to be here, but then a bunch of shit happened at the farm, and I had to take care of that. I couldn't be here, and I called Bell. I'm like, hey, you're doing the skate session? I was like, yep, I'll be here. And Kenzie was like, cool, all right, Junior, he's like, no, I don't need you. And I was like, all right, awesome, cool. Because he's like, yeah, don't come then. And like, and like today, you guys are doing this podcast, and he's going to be here, and he can't. And it's like, it's cool, man. I'll just do it. And the fact that Bedwell is here to be able to do stuff on it. So, and John was for a while, but John's still coming in and out, but he's not on site like he used to be. But in those early days when he was, now we've got it to the point where John doesn't necessarily need to be here all the time. John's an older guy too, man, and like he doesn't need to be in an old church, and he's like a old man house,
Is John the guy that was in the Sanctuary documentary?
Yes. Yeah, that's Uncle John. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But at the time, John was here for years on site every day. This without that, there would be no church. And to this, and Bedwell as well wouldn't be here without them here. And that's the thing is like I often, I find myself doing podcasts and interviews and shit. But like at the end of the day, like this wouldn't happen without Brian and John, without a doubt. Like they were here every day, like doing stuff. And I'm here very, very frequently, but you got to be on site all the time.
Yeah, takes a team for sure.
You got to have a team. Got to have a good team. There's just not enough hours in the day to do it alone. It's not possible.
Now you said you had a newborn, right?
Yeah, I got a daughter, 9 months old.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's the craziest shit that ever happened to me my whole life. It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Change you for the better?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
man.
I looking back, now that I got a kid, like I look back at my life, I had no idea what I was missing. Like, all these years. Yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
But a lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. I'm not ready yet, but
it's wild.
I don't think anyone's ever ready. It just kind of happens, you know. Yeah. But it forces you to get your shit together, I'm sure. Like, you probably value your time so much more because you that that little girl at home that you want to get back to and spend some time with,
Absolutely. Bedwell's about to have a son coming up any day now.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Emily's gonna pop. Like it could be I imagine we could see them like running out to the hospital while we're sitting here right now. Like, I think they're in like that any day now mode, which I remember what that was like, and that's a interesting time. But I don't know. Yeah. I would almost rather have that any day now mode. My wife got like induced into labor, so we had like a day. Like there was like, and it was really nerve wracking for me in a way having a day. In a way, like I would have rather have it be like, yo man, I'm just gonna get a call. Like I'll be in this podcast right now, and I pull up my phone like, I gotta go, and I just like run out. I was like, sorry guys, and I leave. But like in a way, I'd have liked that better than like being like, all right, August 22nd, we're going in for we're gonna induce labor. All right, got 2 weeks.
God.
A week and 2 days. All right. 72 hours till takeoff. All right, we're going in tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, my entire life changes forever. Tomorrow morning, everything's different. All right, we're at the hospital now. Okay, all right. Like it's just like having this
like sitting around waiting.
Definitive moment where like at this exact moment, nothing will ever be the same ever again.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was a wild thing to wrap my brain around, but yeah, having a kid changes everything. It's weird, man. Like I like look in her eyes and I can like literally feel like chemicals squirting in my brain.
Really?
Yeah. Like in a very like, I was like, whoa. Like maybe I just spent enough time doing drugs growing up and shit. And I know I was like, wow. Like you just looked me in the eyes and smiled, and like my brain flooded with dopamine. Like that's wild.
That's
like
amazing.
it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
So how scary was that, knowing like you got all these projects you're doing and now you got a baby? Well,
in the same way that I was just talking about Bedwell at the church, at the farm, I got my wife. It's like my wife Autumn is like my super partner in crime, and she's like, Autumn is like a fucking savage. Like she is the most like driven and disciplined and like determined and just hardcore badass person I think I've ever met in my entire life. And so I'm able to be here now because like she got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and got her out the door, and I was doing a bunch of work last night to get her ready to go, and she runs that whole farm, and she's I'm a very like extroverted person, and she's a very like introverted person, so she's kind of like the yin to my yang. And so in a way I know that I'll be able to, I got to communicate with your wife and kid, talk about what do we got going on, what am I going to do, okay, I need you here this day, but I know that I'm going to be able to keep doing these things because again, just like I cannot be at a Friday session because Bedwell got it, I can, Autumn's got the baby, and I can go do a podcast and go finish up the survey of the church and help do this music video shoot, and then go meet and get the GoFundMe stuff together, and then be home at 9 o'clock, and then tomorrow morning I got to do baby stuff, and then kind of get back on doing what I'm doing after that, And so it's all scheduling and blocking stuff out, sometimes down to like the 15-minute increments, and what you got to do,
Yeah, that's a very common theme that we're starting to see is like every successful man is like having a powerful woman behind him,
That is true.
It takes that, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, it takes that.
Yeah, it goes
it
back
takes
to
a
like,
strong woman behind. What is that saying? Behind every successful man is a strong woman.
Man, it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, shit, even on the Wednesday session, man, I was getting ready to work for the metal fabrication company. I was going to go work we're doing a job at the Post-Dispatch building some shit for Square that just took that over. And there was a session, and Emily called me up. She's like, "Got anybody working the session?" And I was like, I don't know. Bedwell put a post on Instagram about it. I assumed he had somebody. Does he not have anybody? And she was like, I don't think so. And I talked to, I called Avian and Young Dud, and neither one of them were able to do it. And I called Emily, and I was like, I don't know. I don't really got nobody. And I mean, do you want to? And she was like, yeah, I'll just take care of it. I had a couple things to take care of. I was like, word, awesome. I mean, she's like fucking 9 months pregnant, and just like came out with the session because like, like that's his badass woman behind Bedwell, but it's dope now because she like everybody can rely on each other. And like that. So like I mean, Emily's a fucking savage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I want to get into that Redbull event.
Yeah, the Cornerstone.
Mm-hmm. So how did that even come about?
So they reached out to Bedwell. I'm not sure through what channels, if like directly or through somebody else. He would be able to tell you. But there was a dude whose name I don't recall. That Bedwell, I'm sure, would just spit off the top of his head. That runs like kind of the Midwest stuff for skateboarding through Redbull, and they asked about doing a competition. So we did it in 2019, and it was fucking dope. Like it was really awesome. And then we did it again in 2020, like in pandemic land. I should probably turn the ringer off that phone. 1 second, I have an idea. Okay.
Oh, that's what that was.
I got this Bluetooth headset, so I just answered it, hung up on them.
That's how you know you're a busy man. You got the fucking Bluetooth around your neck at all times.
2 hands going. Yeah, I don't know who that was, but I definitely just answered the phone and immediately hung up on them.
You're like, asshole.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. I'll have to go peek at that in a second. Hopefully it wasn't important. Yeah, and so then 2020 was during the pandemic, and that was a weird one because they had to come in waves, and could have people here at one time all spaced out. But it's a cool event. They helped build. We built a bunch of stuff for it.
Yeah,
and Converse did an event here, and they sent some builders out to help build some stuff too. I think with Zoomies, and like the skate competitions have been really, really cool.
Yeah, it looked insane.
Yeah,
they were super
insane.
dope.
They were awesome. Yeah, they were really.
Were you
really cool.
here to like actually like watch?
Oh
the whole event?
yeah. I was at both of those
in.
and help run stuff and set up and coordinate and get everything going and stuff like that. I helped build a bunch of this. We did like a long late night before that one to help build. So I helped build a bunch of the ramps and stuff. It was me and Bedwell and Joss and the builders from Converse and Zoomies and some other guys helped build all this street course and stuff like that. And so, yeah, definitely.
Now, how involved is the city with those type of decisions? Like, do you have to get permission from them, or is it kind of just like?
I mean, probably.
We'll skip it.
Probably.
Skip.
Yeah,
let's skip that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have those companies like backing you for the launch though? Like, have you talked to them about like when you're ready to launch?
We reached out to some people. That's kind of in the next. We Rachel and Ryan that are like Rachel. I went to high school with, and then Ryan is our homie. They're kind of like our marketing team, and that have just been like so incredibly generous and pro bono offering their time to help us put our like website and social media presence and kind of get a real ad campaign together and brand the church for like a launch, so that when people come like and find the place or see it on the news or see it on Betty or see it on whatever, that like the message is clear and what they can do to help us is clear. And like that's all kind of advertising and writing copy that Rachel does, and Ryan doing all the graphic design and new logos and stuff like that. And so in doing kind of like doing that, once we have all that done, we filmed an anthem reel and like a promo video. At that point, once all that is edited, and we should have it by next week, hopefully, all things aligning, then that would be the point then where we can reach out to some of these folks, because they're making us a press kit and a bunch of stuff. But you know, when you reach out to these companies, you got to come and be like, hey, so we have a non-for-profit. Would you be down to make a donation to our non-for-profit of X amount of dollars, and in exchange, we would hang banners up, or you could host exclusive content contest here, or whatever. And like, there's a way to kind of, and I'm learning now from some folks about the way you acquire corporate sponsorship and the way you solicit that. And like, that's kind of the part of it. Like, I have no idea how to do that type of shit. And I'm kind of figuring it out. But luckily I know who to ask, and I have friends that do and that are willing to help. Because Rachel and Ryan have been so like incredibly, just insanely generous with their time and labor and effort in putting this giant marketing push together for this big launch that we have to inevitably, hopefully, fund the construction costs for everything. And so, but that's kind of the way we had to do it. Like, in order to make that launch successful, we had to run this underground place for a while and build that buzz that kind of led you guys to be here, and the social media stuff, and do these very selected kind of media to kind of build it out there. So you create this environment where people are intrigued, and then all of a sudden, like, it's in your face, and then they're like, whoa, okay, so this is that. Oh, that's what they're doing. Yeah, no, I've seen pictures of that. Cool. Wow, they're raising money. Yeah, man, we can throw down on that. This is dope. I like all for kids too. And like, you know, and so we have the people who want to help work with kids or want to do historic preservation, historic repurposing. There's a lot of things that we're doing here that are all very near and dear to our heart, broadly, but a lot of people, you know, may not necessarily give a shit about skateboarding, and maybe don't even give a shit about underserved youth, which, I don't know, you're kind of a shitty person if you don't care about underserved youth, but they might really care about historic preservation and repurposing old buildings, or they love old Catholic architecture or Gothic, you know, revival architecture. And they want to save that, or maybe they don't give a shit about Gothic revival architecture, but they are all about like empowering youth in underserved urban communities, or they don't care about either of those things, but they really love skateboarding or they love art or whatever. And so like, looking at those different kind of modes of things, because all of those things are super important to us. And I think each of us have a different emphasis of which one maybe would win in a what's more important hierarchy. But in a way, I know everybody who's involved with the project loves all of those aspects I was talking about very dearly. And so, you know, but then we got to kind of look at those different things as like revenue channels of like reaching out to different people that work within those channels and trying to get them to help support our project.
You definitely got a lot of arms reaching out of like different things that people could support. I mean, definitely a lot of positive things too. Like you said, the preservation, the underprivileged youth, like all of that. Like definitely a lot of things to support with this.
Well, the skate community alone, man, like, and the fact that Steve Berra like came through and checked out this place, like, I know you guys are gonna get the skate brands behind you on this. Like, I can see it. I can see it happening, man.
I hope so, man. A lot of that stuff with working with skate brands, that's something that in there, and like how to maintain those relationships, or which ones to work with and which ones not to work with. That's kind of more a Brian ballpark. I mean, he ran a skate shop for years, and he kind of knows, like, we don't want to fuck with that, or like, these are the dudes we want to talk to. Like, he knows all that. As far as Steve goes, Steve, like working with Steve or the Barracks, like that's something we would definitely be down to do. I think that's kind of like, I don't know, we're at a point where we'd be able to, what we even have to really offer them. But like, Steve was super generous, like with his time, did a big interview for our video that we were doing, and then I did an interview with them. Bedwell missed it again though. The first time Bedwell, he was here, it's man, I felt so fucking bad. And Steve was like, no, because the first time he came here, Bedwell happened to be out of town. And so I did like an interview with him and talked about all this kind of things I'm talking to you about. And then he was like, all right, well, I'm gonna come back and get Bedwell's interview, and the time it didn't quite work out. And then he was like, yo, I gotta come back and film. Some of the audio got fucked up. I'm gonna do it again. And I was like, awesome. He's like, is Bedwell going to be in town? I'm like, he's out of town again. And we're like, no. Because he really wanted to get kind of both of us talking about it.
Does he just pop up? Like he just does like surprise visits or?
Steve?
Yeah.
No, I mean, not really. Like, it's not like he's like, oh, is that Steve over there? Like, it's not.
Just knocking on the door.
He's been here twice. And for specific, but he, Tyler Peterson is a skater that he sponsored from St. Louis. And Tyler's skated here much times. And Tyler's like kind of like hometown. New young hope and
that
stuff.
Dude's a
he's a
killer,
he's a
man.
fucking savage.
Yeah.
Style for
he
days.
gave us. He was super awesome for. He was in our video too, and like, and just kind of supporting and stuff. But like, Steve's an interesting dude, man. Like, just in that, like, on kind of a personal level, like, if he, considering everything he's accomplished in his life, which is like a laundry list of stuff, if he was, and he's not, but if he was kind of like a arrogant, cocky asshole, I would kind of forgive it. I'd be like, you're allowed to kind of be a cocky prick, dude. Like, you've done some pretty incredible shit. Like, you're allowed to kind of be a little full of yourself. But he's not. He's like the most humble, chill, approachable, down-to-earth, regular-ass dude, which I think just like speaks volumes to his character of like 100%. What just like a solid dude he is. What just like the nicest, most like humble, giving dude. Like, we're like, hey man, do this interview. Like, would you mind doing a little shot for our video? And he was like, of course I will. And he sat there and did an interview for like over an hour. Like,
oh shit,
and
man.
they had like an event to get to, which I'm sure they were late to. And like, he didn't have to do that, man. He could have like been like, yeah, man, and like talked to us for 5 minutes. Like, all right, we're out. Thanks a lot. Like, got what I needed from these guys. But he just like, he wants to help. Like, he cares. He cares about St. This is his hometown. He's from St. Louis. So I think he understands what we're trying to do, and like really what we're trying to do is create a place for all of ourselves when we were 12 years old, that had been for him when he was 12 too. And like, and he loves his city. He loves St. Louis too. And he talked about that a lot, how important St. Louis is to him and how much he supports what we're doing here for the city. We all love our town.
Yeah, because when he grew up skating, like, I don't think there was any parks really out here.
Now, Bedwell built, Peter Matthews, I believe, was the first public open public skate park in St. Louis. That I believe so. Actually, I'm basically positive of that. There's some other ones out there.
But there's one in South County, the
Barracks.
No, not Jefferson Barracks.
Yeah, but
that's outside the city.
Right, within the city limits. And stuff. And there's some other parks out there, but what I hear most of, because again, I don't skate, but what I hear from Bedwell and some of the other skaters about a lot of the other parks, a couple of the other parks around that were built were like, is it just that like they kind of suck? It's sort of like a bunch of guys who don't skate and don't build skate parks went on like Google image search and looked at pictures of what skate parks look like. And they're like, yeah, we'll build, look at that. We can build one of those, put it over there, one of these over there. But like, there's no way to get up speed or to cut lines. And just from building this place for years, I kind of can wrap my brain around like the way, even without skating, like you have to kind of lay a skate park out a little bit, and like I can wrap my brain around the way you need to have this so you can get up speed to do this, to be able to do that, to make it fun to skate. Whereas Bedwell is real good at that, about like laying out a skate park and like how you do it. And like, I'll be honest, I kind of can, like I said, wrap my brain around it, but like not really skating. I don't, like those type of things you have to kind of feel it, know it. So, but he's good at. That's like I'll give it up to Brian, like skateboarding and like the promoting of it and the good that it does kind of for society in general. Like, the dude has devoted like a sizable chunk of his life to that. And that's dope. That's dope as fuck, and I guess at this point, so have I, but not to the extent that Bedwell has, at least within the realm of skateboarding. I got into this for art and architecture and stuff. And I mean, I love skateboarding and art and stuff too, but but similar goals.
Goes hand in hand.
In that too.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
This conversation's amazing, man, because it opened my eyes to what's going on here, because I had no idea what you guys were fully trying to do.
Truly about the bigger picture. Like, the vision is so much bigger than we could have even thought. It's bigger than just a skate park, for sure. I think so, man. I hope so. Like, and the art is a big thing too. Like the street art gallery. Like, we have plans to Sistine Chapel out the whole ceiling. I mean, the original oil painting frescoes, we're never going to touch those. I mean, they're like 130-year-old oil paintings. Like, that's like an executable offense to paint over those. But so those will ride forever, as far as I'm concerned. But all the other open ceiling space, we talked to Brian Forsey there. I mentioned
mentioned before, there was an engineer that's been helping us out from Frontenac Architects, and Gabe McKee, who's just been like, Gabe is a fucking savage architect. He's so good at everything he does. And so they've been helping us. We're gonna get a LiDAR rig in here to map all those panels on the ceiling, so then we can because nobody's gonna get up on some scaffolding and lay on their back like Michelangelo and paint that ceiling. That's not happening. I don't got no problem with heights. I do weird shit, and even I ain't doing that. We built the scaffolding. We have scaffolding. We got all the way up to the ceiling before, and it is wiggly up there, man. I mean,
it's high, man. That's way up there.
Shit. I mean, it's like 8 courses of scaffolding to get up to the top, and you got to strap it to the columns, and it's like it's sketchy. But so what we can do though is we'll build the scaffolding and we'll put it up there. And once we map those triangles out, then, it's like this curvilinear space, but that curved space will translate to a flat thing. You just have to map it, and then you can lay that out. And once we have those dimensions, we can cut that out of paper or canvas or whatever and send them off, roll them up, send them off to artists. They can paint it, and then we'll put them up and we'll label that's A1, A2, A3, AZ5 or whatever. We label them out, and then we can, completely, the goal is just to completely floor to ceiling wrap the entire space in art of different street artists from around the world.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, dude. I'm really excited to see the future of this place and how everything turns out, man. Yeah, I'm really stoked, and I can appreciate what you guys are doing big time.
Thanks, man. Yeah, more ramps to come too. I know Bedwell has designed. I believe he already has drawn up or 3D modeled like a bowl that's going to kind of go where we're sitting underneath the dome. And I think he said it has a hip that goes around to a pocket over there. And then we've talked about off the Oregon Loft where the new mini ramp is, building balconies that kind of come out to these columns with a pump track up there. And we've got a bunch of plans for different stuff. But it's kind of like what I was saying before, until we get all of the building repairs done, building a bowl in here is kind of like a moot point. If it comes on its own, then it's meant to be. Zach put in a bunch of just hard work, and GoFundMe raised the majority of the money for the vert ramp, and then the vert ramp was comprised of the old mini and the other box jump that was in here. So it's we cannibalized a bunch of old stuff to build new stuff, and if other things happen in that way, then it's meant to be. But we gotta kind of like I was saying, things gotta happen in a particular order if we're gonna be successful at it. And so but I think we will. I know we're gonna work our fucking asses off to make it happen. I don't plan to stop ever.
Hell yeah.
I know Brian and John and everybody, and Joss and Jen and Ryan and Rachel and everyone, the awesome team we're lucky enough to have. I know they're not going to either. So away we go.
Now, do you got a place online where people can donate?
Yeah. So most of everything we're doing now is through Instagram. Instagram is our main hub. Everything on Facebook, we just sort of forward off the Instagram. I think Bedwell has the Instagram. It has the Facebook login, but I don't think I even have that. I kind of but the Instagram, there's a GoFundMe link on there that people can donate to if they want to. We're going to, actually, the meeting I have after I finish this podcast, I got to go set up more shit for the GoFundMe because it didn't quite get set up exactly right. And so we got to change that. And it all goes to our nonprofit. Yeah. And all that money will all go to fund the construction costs for all the work that we need to do in order to open the building to the public. That's what none of us make any personal. Matter of fact, we just all dump as much money and hours into this as we all possibly can. And so any money that we don't profit off it at all. Everything just goes into what has been just a bottomless black hole pit of money of fixing up this old building, as any construction project is. But this one's particularly challenging.
Yeah. This is going to be your guys' legacy, man. This will be here, I imagine, after you guys are gone, at least the idea of this.
I hope so. I mean, it's been here for 100+ years. Hopefully it ain't going anywhere. I mean, I definitely think if we hadn't got it when we got it, it would be past the point of being able to fix. We fixed some pretty crucial damage that I think if left unfixed for even another year or two would have seriously damaged the building to the point where it really wouldn't have been able to be like, you could have, but you'd have had to spend just an absurd amount of money to fix it. And like, we got it like just in the nick of time. And then we're also, me and Bedwell and John all have backgrounds in construction to be able to actually do that work. But now we're at the point where like, we can't do everything we need to do in the time period that we need to do it. We need help. We need to be able to bring in other contractors, or at least be able to like relatively pay ourselves for our time of working on it, you know? Because so we can't just be in here just like dumping sweat equity into it forever, you know? That was our plan for a while, was just we're gonna pick away at this thing for 30 years. And I think that's not, now we have to, we gotta move quicker. I mean, we could now, we fixed the big shit that like, we kind of buttoned her up, but like, we need to go hard now.
Well, the fact that like you got here in the nick of time and all that, like the universe is like aligning for you guys. So
I hope so, man. I hope you're right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
It definitely is.
I hope you're right.
Well, we're definitely wanting to plug that the GoFundMe and do anything that we can to help you guys. Because like, again, your story is amazing.
Thanks,
and if we could be a part anyway, you know, we would love to help out.
Yeah, so I would say we're getting ready to launch this big fundraising campaign. It'll be in July, probably mid-July. We're trying to get it out by the time Betty airs, and we very well might, but it might be a little later. But luckily nowadays we don't, you know, back in the day when they launched like a TV show, like everyone's like, gotta watch it, because like, but now like, it's just gonna be on HBO Go, and people are gonna binge it or watch it.
Right.
It'll be a slow burn over the course of a year as people watch it here and there. You know, the hardcore fans will watch it on, you know, the day it airs, but people who watch the show, they'll get to it when they get to it, or they'll binge the whole season or whatever. And so we're trying to kind of capitalize on the fact that the church is gonna be very prominently displayed in HBO show to help piggyback us into like a little more exposure to raise the money. So like, you'll hopefully, I mean, if you're following us, you'll see it. Like, there'll be a large marketing push. We'll be on local news and stuff like that around St. Louis, and reaching out to other people to do stories on it, because it's like I said, it's a good story. Like, it's and that's all that a lot of times people are looking for, is a good story. People love a captivating narrative. And so
a success story.
Yeah, me and Bedwell have talked about that a lot in what we're doing. That like, that's important, of like cultivating that narrative, and that the way that we go about things, we need to not necessarily do things in order to create a narrative, but like to be conscious of it. Is that like we have a story that we're writing here about what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we did it, and where we intend to go, and that like we need to be sure of that in the way that we proceed forward, because that, to a lot of onlookers that kind of like view things from the outside looking in, that's kind of what people tend to latch on to, is like a story and a character, and like what they're doing and stuff. And so yeah, you'll be seeing it, man. And so like, just if you see it, bump it, man. Like, bump it and share it and post it and repost it, and like talk about it, and like try to funnel people to that donate button. And I think it's as good a cause as any that people could donate money to. I mean, we 100%. Really are altruistic in what we're doing. This is not like in any way trying to like enrich ourselves or anything else. Like, we really honestly all are just trying to make our community better through bettering the young people in it, which ultimately makes the whole city better and the world better. You know, the more self-assured people who are following their passions and living and doing their, you know, art and stuff, like the better of a world we all live in. You know? Yeah.
Definitely, man.
It's important.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, so where can people find you? Like, what's the Instagram?
The Instagram is Sk8 Liborius with an 8, Sk8 Liborius. There's nothing up for the Lewis right now, but there will be very soon. The website, I think the rough website is up right now, but we haven't promoted the website. It's just skateliborius.com. But it's getting revamped in the next couple days, actually. It's kind of up in like all right, we launched it, and then now we got to add a bunch of stuff to kind of prepare for this big launch. Like, the video will be on there, and a bunch of bios of all the different people that I've been talking about, Joss and Rachel and Ryan and Brian and everybody else will be on there, so people know who's involved, and also people to get, you know, their propers, you know, that have like because we wouldn't have been able to do this without those folks, you know, at all. Even just me, John, and Brian. I don't know that you know, we've had help from tons of people, you know, along the way, and it's important to, you know, give them their dues too.
Hell yeah.
It takes a whole community to build something like this to help the whole community.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you sitting down with us, telling us your story.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming out.
Wish nothing but success, man.
Most definitely.
Yeah, much love, much success to your podcast too, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, episode 31. Let's go.
31. Thanks, y'all.
Let's go.
Yes, sir.
You are here and now with Brennan and Joe. I'm Joe.
And I'm Brandon.
Here and now